I pressed the button for the 23rd floor and adjusted my scarf, catching a glimpse of my reflection in the polished steel of the elevator doors. It had been a long day, and all I wanted was to get back to my apartment. The office party downstairs had drained me. Endless small talk and forced laughter were far from my idea of fun. Just as the doors began to close, a man slipped in with a polite nod. His presence startled me, not because it was unexpected, but because he looked familiar. His dark hair was streaked with silver, and his sharp suit carried a worn-in elegance, hinting at someone who had seen his share of life's challenges. "Floor?" I asked, trying to shake the strange sense of recognition. 23rd, same as you," he replied with a small smile. His voice was deep and soothing, with a warmth that put me at ease. The elevator hummed softly as we began our ascent. Out of the corner of my eye, I studied him. His face tugged at the edges of my memory, but I couldn't quite place it. Before I could dwell on it, the elevator jolted to a stop. The lights flickered before steadying, leaving us suspended in an uneasy silence. "Great," I muttered under my breath. "Looks like we're stuck," he said calmly, pressing the emergency button. His composure was enviable, especially as my chest tightened with a flicker of anxiety. Being trapped in small spaces had always unnerved me. "Are you okay?" he asked, his tone gentle. "Yeah, just not a fan of tight spaces," I admitted with a weak smile. "It'll be fine. These things happen all the time," he said, leaning casually against the wall. "Maintenance will have us out in no time." His confidence was reassuring. We exchanged names, his was Daniel, and started making small talk. He worked in finance, was recently divorced, and had 2 grown kids. I told him I was a graphic designer, single, and living alone. The more we talked, the stronger that nagging feeling of familiarity grew. Minutes stretched into an hour. The air grew warmer, heavier, but despite the circumstances, I found myself surprisingly at ease. As Daniel leaned against the wall, his sleeves rolled up, I couldn't help but study him more closely. The crow's feet at the corners of his eyes, the slight crease in his brow, it all seemed so familiar. "You know," I began hesitantly, "I can't shake the feeling that we've met before." He tilted his head, a curious smile tugging at his lips. "Now that you mention it, you do look familiar. We played a game of Where Have I Seen You? Until it hit me." "High school!" I exclaimed. His eyes widened. "Marietta High, class of '99? "Yes! Oh my gosh, I knew I recognized you!" We laughed, the tension of being stuck forgotten for a moment. Memories came flooding back. Pep rallies, school dances, late-night study sessions. Daniel had been the quiet, smart guy in my history class, while I was the artsy girl who spent more time doodling in my notebook than paying attention. "I had the biggest crush on you," he confessed suddenly, his voice softer. My breath caught. "You did?" He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, but you were way out of my league. Then you started dating that football player." "Jeff," I said with a wry smile. "Yeah, that didn't last long." His gaze met mine, and for a moment it felt as though the years melted away. Something in his eyes, a mix of nostalgia and vulnerability, made my heart ache in an unexpected way. The elevator jolted again, a reminder of our predicament, but the small space no longer felt suffocating. "So, what happened after high school?" I asked, genuinely curious. Daniel shared his story. College, a demanding career, a marriage that ended in divorce. I opened up about my own highs and lows, from failed relationships to career milestones. The awkwardness of 2 strangers trapped in an elevator shifted into something deeper, unspoken. "I always wondered what might have happened if I'd worked up the nerve to ask you out," he said quietly. His words hung in the air, heavy with possibility. "Maybe it's not too late," I blurted out before I could stop myself. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. For a moment I thought I'd overstepped, but then he smiled, a slow, genuine smile that made my chest tighten. Before either of us could say more, the elevator jolted to life and began moving. Relief washed over me, tinged with a bittersweet sense of loss. Our little bubble of connection was about to burst. When the doors opened on the 23rd floor, we stepped into the hallway, the world suddenly louder, brighter, and less intimate. Daniel hesitated, glancing at me. "Can I take you to dinner sometime?" he asked. I smiled, my heart racing. "I'd like that." As I watched him walk away, I felt a sense of hope I hadn't felt in years. Maybe getting stuck in that elevator wasn't such a bad thing after all.